Hi, this is going to be a slightly irregular video. Normally, I play video games on this channel, but I got into a conversation with Jedi Psych Tricks on Twitter about sort of how my thumbnails have progressed over time as I've been making, because each video that you put on YouTube, it needs to have a thumbnail. Sometimes, YouTube will just generate an automatic one for you, but if you really want to sort of catch people's eye, what you do is you make an eye-grabbing thumbnail to make them want to click on your video. And I looked back at a lot of my old ones, and man, was I bad at it originally. I had no idea what I was doing. And I definitely cannot say that I'm the best at it now, but I have improved over time. And since I've got, a few people who follow me who have, YouTube channels of their own, sometimes nascent YouTube channels like Jedi Psych Tricks, I thought maybe it would be fun to show the process that I go through when I'm making a thumbnail. And I'm definitely not saying that this is like the right way to make a thumbnail. There's a lot of people who are experts out there who are very, very good at coming up with ways to catch your eye. I think one of my favorite examples is the pitch meeting videos on Screen Rant, where for some reason they just take pictures of characters in movies and make their eyes really big. And it's disconcerting and weird, but you never, like, if you're scrolling through a whole bunch of videos and seeing all their thumbnails, you never don't notice the Screen Rant video because it's so disturbing to see someone with these big expanded eyes on the screen. And so people, they often look for stuff like that, some sort of hook that they can create for their thumbnails to make their video stand out among the crowd. To first off, you want people to be able to recognize that it's one of your videos. So if you're looking for so if you've got somebody who likes your videos and they want to see yours in their feed and click on them when they're there, your videos all have a certain kind of look, a certain kind of brand to them, so people can immediately recognize that they're yours. But then you also want to make them stand out in some way that makes them sort of like just not look like every other video. So even if someone doesn't know who you are and has never seen your channel before, your video sort of stands out from the crowd and sort of blinks at them and sort of gets their attention. And then you also want it to communicate, what the video is going to be about, and sort of tell someone, why do I care about this video over some other? So I've got my screen out here. So I guess I'll start by showing you that I've got this template that I use. So this one right here, I think is the one I've got. So this, first of all, this piece of software here is called paint.net. It is the worst name for a piece of software I've ever heard in my life. It's basically sort of like, it's kind of like a free version of Photoshop with a lot less features than Photoshop has, but it does a lot of the basic stuff. And so if you don't want to be spending whatever $200 a year or something for access to Photoshop, you can get paint.net. You got to be a little bit cautious when you're searching for it because there's a lot of like misleading ad links and stuff like that on the way to getting it. You can also buy it. You can get it for free, but you can also buy it from the Microsoft Store for like $7 or something like that. And that is a way that's way easier to avoid all of the con men out there on the internet. But anyway, so up to you how you get it. But that's the software that I'm using. The main thing that it offers that's really important that you can't do with something like, say, MS Paint is layers up here. So let me just close all of the layers real quick. So this image, this template image that I've made, it's made of a bunch of different layers. First off, it's got this icon of me, which is sort of like my stream branding. If you see this icon at the bottom right, you always know that it's mine. It's got this white frame that I usually keep faded out when I'm working on it so that I can sort of see what's behind it. But you'll notice that all of my videos, going back for quite a ways, have got this white frame here, and I'll show you why I put the white frame here in a bit. I've also got a shadow behind my icon to make it sort of pop from the background because you never know what it's going to be in front of. If it's in front of something white, it wouldn't really show up very well. I'd look like the Invisible Man, so nobody wants to see that nonsense. And then I've got a bunch of empty. I've got the subtitle layer, the title layer, all these different layers that I'm not using for anything right now. So the thing about layers, if you've never used layers before, is basically the game goes from the bottom to the top. The game. See, I'm so used to streaming games. I'm going to call every piece of software I use a game. The software basically starts from the bottom. It first puts this image on the screen, and then each layer that's on top of the previous layer gets drawn on top. And so if a given layer has got, transparency and stuff in it, you can see through one layer back to the next. And so professional digital artists just use this constantly to be able to sort of separate all the parts of their image so they can turn parts of it on and off and work on different parts of it, actually use the layers to create certain effects that would be hard to create otherwise. And I'll show you how I do this in a couple of cases. So all right, so let's say that I want to make a a thumbnail of my Biomutant video, of my first Biomutant video, which I've got right here. The first thing I'm going to do is watch my video and find a frame that I want to use. Sweet. So there's me. Oh, look at me. I'm so adorable.
I'm so cute.
Okay, so
I wish I could get a better angle on myself.
I need to mute myself because nobody wants to hear my voice twice. All right, so this is me playing Biomutant, obviously. I'm going to maximize this so I can get it at sort of the highest possible resolution. So this is the point in the video where I first discovered photo mode. And I was sitting there talking about how cute my character was. I was like, oh, maybe this will make a good thumbnail. Except I commented at the time on the fact that this text on the screen was going to make it impossible. So I decided to wait till the text was gone, and then later on in the video, and you got to try to, as I'm playing through games, you'll often notice that I'll stop to try to capture a really nice image so that I can use it for a thumbnail later. And I'll try to remember about where in the video it was. So in this case, I'm aware that it was around 1:13 that I actually found the image that I wanted to take. So I was practicing jumping in the air and grabbing this guy. And you know what? This is really kind of weird having two of me on the screen. Let me just move up here to cover my other self. Okay, so I find this image of him, and then actually I should keep showing myself because you'll notice that I'm going to fade myself out at some point to catch a really clean image of this guy. So I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to do it, and I'm not listening to my own voice, so I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, so boink. Okay, so I just hit print screen. And so what print screen does is it grabs the entire desktop and it puts it up on, let's see, I'll show you what it does. And it puts it on the clipboard. So I'm going to hit Control-N to start a new image. And automatically, whenever you start a new image in Paint.net and you've got an image on your clipboard, it automatically sizes the new image to be the same. So my screen resolution is 5120 by 1440 because I got two monitors up and they're both bigger than HD. And so when I've got an image on the clipboard, it automatically assumes that what I want to do is create a new template for that image to paste into. So I hit yes and Control V, and now I've got both of my monitors. I don't need to have both of my monitors though. Let's just, grab this guy. Okay, so now I'm going to copy this and paste it in here. So this template, one thing I should mention is that YouTube thumbnails are 1280 by 720. And so this template here is 1280 by 720. But you'll notice the image that I captured was much bigger than that. It's actually 1440 high. It's twice as tall as this, which means when I paste it in, it's going to be huge. In fact, it's going to ask me, do I want to just make my canvas bigger or do I want to keep the canvas size? So I'm going to keep my locked down 1280 by 720 canvas size. And basically, wait. Oh, right. I forgot to turn on the... Okay, so when you've got... Okay, I screwed it up. Hold on, I'm gonna do it again. Okay, so one thing I forgot to do, this little checkbox here, because I made all of my layers invisible, when I pasted it in, I pasted it into an invisible layer. That's silly. So I gotta get the layers right. So my background image, this is the very bottom thing on my layers. That means it's gonna be behind everything else. And so this image from the game is something I wanna have behind everything else. So I'm gonna paste it in, and now you can see it's much larger than the original. And so now I'm going to place him somewhere on this screen so that he looks nice. Now, this is, Stealthy is, I have not been keeping up with the chat. So let me quickly look through the chat here and see if anything's popped up that I really need to make sure that I respond to. Looks like people are talking about French words, so maybe I don't need to. But okay, so here's the thing. So we already talked about my branding, right? Which is this image of my face that I stick at the bottom of the screen. We've covered that. But how do I try to make my thumbnails pop out? There's lots of different ways you can do it. The way that I do it is if you're watching YouTube in light mode or whatever, everything is against a white backdrop. And so I have this white frame around all of my thumbnails that are meant, what the idea is, they're meant to sort of blend in with the white background of YouTube, and then I can make things stick out of them to make it look like things are exploding out of the thumbnail. Now, it's a pretty subtle effect. I don't know if it actually makes that much of a difference to it popping out. And if you watch YouTube in dark mode, it doesn't look like it's popping out of the frame. It looks like I just have a white frame that it's popping out of, which is still okay. And so what I want to do is arrange this image of my Biomutant character so that parts of him are sticking out of the frame. So right now, in the configuration he's in, that's actually going to be hard. So what I'm going to do is rotate him. And you'll notice I do this a lot. A lot of my the images that I put in of the games that I play are rotated. So I could rotate him far enough that I could actually fit his whole body in. That seems like a little much. So he's just slightly too large to do the thing that I want to do. Because when I get his ears in, his ears just barely in the frame like that. His feet are off. So now I could go back and try to make sure I get the aspect ratio exactly perfect by sort of editing the original image and then repasting it again. But instead of doing that, I'm going to try to just... Okay, so what I want, I think, is his front leg sticking out and his back leg going behind. So I'm just going to keep adjusting this until basically I've got his ears right out to the edges. And his forward foot just barely sticking out. Let's make sure. Okay, so that ear is just a little bit out there. There we go. The ears are perfect. The toe is perfect. Okay, this is where I want him. And so once I click away from the little move selection tool, boink, it actually crops it to fit into the frame there. So now I've got him here. That's cool. Now, how do I make him pop out, though? That's the big question. So what I usually do is I go into the layer that contains my frame, which I've deliberately made translucent right now so that I can see what's behind it. I start working in that layer, and then I grab the erase tool. And what the erase tool does is it replaces the image with transparency. So I basically go through, and you notice I'm erasing a little bit of darkness from here. That's the shadow under the frame. So I'm erasing the shadow and the frame to make it look like he's sticking out over the frame. So actually, he's not sticking out over the frame. What he's doing, and actually, he's sticking off just a little bit. I'm going to have to fake this. That's fine. I fake this a lot, actually. I fake the edge of something when actually it goes further. So we'll just pretend that that's the end of his ear right there, even though it actually goes longer than that. But yeah, so when you see something popping out of a frame on my YouTube thumbnails, it's not actually popping out. It's not superimposed. Most of the time, except in rare cases where I actually get an image of something that actually has transparency on it, and I can actually have it stick over my my frame. Normally, what I've actually done is just put a hole in the frame. Now, things with hair are really, really hard. This is actually like the perfect thing for me to show you because I'll be showing you how difficult it is to do this sometimes. So yeah, it's stuff like, just the middle of his head, whatever. I just haphazardly, go over it. And if something's got a really sort of fine edge to it, like right here, this strap of his eye patch has got a really fine edge to it. So all I have to do is sort of zoom in close enough that it's easy to sort of have that level of control and just sort of trace it, and it's fine. Like no problem at all. And like sort of the middle of his head is great, but the edge of his head right here, where he's got all these hairs, that's going to be really, really challenging to make look good. And I'm not going to get it perfect. I'm not going to get it looking ideal. What I'll do is I'm going to get it looking good enough for a thumbnail that is usually small on someone's phone anyway. But before I do the tough stuff, let's just wrap up the easier bits. So I can't really... Sometimes I have trouble telling what is part of the ear and what's not, or whatever it is that I'm tracing. Okay, so let's shrink down my cursor a little bit now so we can get into like some of this detail work. So a lot of the times I'll just use like really kind of haphazard stuff. Now, professional digital artists usually have tablets that they use for this. And so that means you can get a much more natural, familiar sort of like motion in your hands when you're working on something like this, because like you grow up using a pencil for stuff like this, and for a lot of us, that is a much more natural way to manipulate an image like this. And so for me, doing it with a mouse can be really awkward, which is one reason why I really like sort of zooming in to do it, because the more I zoom in, the more control I actually have over this kind of thing. So let's try to make the hair work a little bit. So I try to find the spots where I've gone down to 2, just to sort of like grab the get the broad strokes here of the hair that's sticking off this guy, trying to see it accurately enough through through the sort of white filter that I've got going here. Just getting a really sort of rough edge to it there. But I think that's not going to be enough to make it look right. So I'm going to go down to even just 1 pixel wide. And now I'm going to sort of like really try to rough up the edges a little bit. Still like staying with the grain of the hair, but sort of just roughing it up just enough that if a player sort of or like a viewer sees this on YouTube, you know, they're not going to look and examine every single hair to make sure I got it right, but they are going to expect this to have a really sort of rough frayed edge to it because it's a hairy critter. So I just make sure that these things all have just like little spikes to them, and that the spikes seem to line up with sort of the grain of the hair underneath. And again, like I'm not actually trying to trace each hair. The times when I've tried to trace each hair, it actually ends up looking worse because I don't know exactly why. It just does. So up here at the edge, right here, when something is actually white on white, it's actually kind of really hard to tell if it's working. So okay, so I think I've got that, but let's grab our. So this layer that I've got its opacity down so that I can see through it. Let's raise the opacity up. So now we can see what this actually looks like against a real white frame. And you can see there's a lot of places where I grabbed dark pixels that actually kind of, they might stand out a little bit too much. Like this area right here, that feels like it's a little too chunky. So I might sort of, oh, whoop, that's wrong. So let me go grab my paintbrush with white and undo what I was doing, sort of like back paint it. Now I can't do this around the edge of the frame because, yeah, sort of thin that out a little bit. It looked a little chunky. Probably good enough. You know, I'm not going to spend, I could spend ages trying to perfect something like this. I'm just going to leave it where it is because, you know, nobody wants to watch me do that for ages. And now let's go do the shoe. I need to grab the chat and move it closer to my screen so that I can actually see when you folks are talking to me. All right, so let's grab the eraser again, a bigger version of it, because the shoe is going to be easy. Compared to the hair, the shoe is just like easy mode. Gotta make sure that I eliminate the shadow too. Oh, you see, I kind of traced a little too far and got some green in there, so I'm gonna have to backtrack that, but overall got the shoe okay. Okay, let's grab the paintbrush again and just white over that green right there. There we go. Okay, so now we can take our layer, make it bright, and there we go. We've got a, oh wait, I missed one bit. What did I miss? The dagger. I missed the dagger. Okay, so let's, or stabby, I guess, as it's called in the game. So let's grab a nice little narrow, oh wait, that was my paintbrush. Let's grab a nice little narrow eraser and trace that little guy. Okay, I'll do the big chunks with the 2 pixel brush, but let's get in here, make it nice and sharp with our 1 pixel brush. And that might even be too much. Let's see. A little thicker right there, maybe. Close enough. We're good. All right, so there's a little guy popping out of the screen. And now I need to get the logo for Biomutant. So I'm going to look up Biomutant logo transparent. Do a Google image search. And look at this lovely stuff. Okay, so I think I've got a fairly dark to neutral background here. I probably want a white logo. Let's click on this one and see. Oh, oh yes. Okay, perfect. This is what you want to see. It's enormous. It's got a transparency behind it. So I'm going to copy this image and paste it. So you can see I've got Biomutant with a transparency. This is way too huge. So before, you want to get the proportions of the logo right. So I'm just going to cut it down to, say, I don't know, 800 pixels wide. And then I'll go to my title layer. So I'm no longer working with on the white frame. I'm switching to my title layer. I'm going to paste it. And I made the layer invisible. Okay. Let's make these layers visible. Okay. Try this again. Boink. So you'll notice it's behind the frame. And actually, I might not want that. So I'm going to line it up with the frame here so it looks like it's part of it. But I think a little bit of the frame's shadow is covering the logo. So I'm going to pull this layer up. I'm going to raise it above the frame. And now you can see it's just a little bit brighter because now it's drawing on top of the white frame with its shadow rather than underneath it. But you can see that's a little bit hard to read. Yeah, hold on. I think it's slightly too close to the edge. Let's pull it back just a little. Okay, there we go. Biomutant. So you see, it's a little bit close to the edge. And so one thing I usually do is I try to create a drop shadow. Anytime the title is difficult to see, I create a drop shadow for it. So okay, let me talk through what I'm doing instead of just doing it. Okay, so first, I grab the layer that the title is on. And you can see here, if I toggle the visibility of this layer, that's all that's on this layer is the title. So I duplicate this. And so now I've got two identical ones here. I hide one of them. So this is the one underneath is the one I'm working with now. So I hit Control-Shift-I to invert it. You can also, I think you can do that on, where is it? It's funny, I've been doing this for so long. Invert colors, that's what it is. Control-Shift-I is invert colors. So now I've inverted it so that it's dark, so it's black instead of white. If it was a colorful logo and inverting it wouldn't turn it black, I would just use the brightness contrast controls to bring the brightness as down as far as I could. So now I've got a black version of the title. And now I do something kind of weird. So, okay, so I'm making a drop shadow, so I want it to be blurry. So I'm going to go over to Gaussian blur and blur it to about 8. So that makes sort of a slightly blurry version of it. The problem is there's kind of two things you want to do with a drop shadow. When you're making a drop shadow, so you can see there's a very subtle shadow behind that right now that sort of helps it pop a little bit. There's two things that a drop shadow can do. Number one, it helps highlight the edges of your text so that people can read that, can just find the edges of the text and their brain can read it better, is one thing that it does. But the other thing that it does is it also it can blur out the background a little bit. If there's a busy background that's going to be competing for the player's attention, then the reader, I always think of my audience as being the player that's competing with the viewer's attention. Then you want to sort of mask it with something that sort of like hides the details. The problem is those are two different kinds of drop shadows. If you want to sort of highlight the edges, you want to have a really narrow, really sharp drop shadow. But if you want to blur the background, you want to have a really broad, really sort of hazy drop shadow. And so what I usually do is actually both simultaneously. So first, I've made my very sort of central drop shadow that is it's much tighter, closer to the text. And then I duplicate that, which you'll see it gets thicker because now I've got two drawing on top of each other. And then I'll blur the new one again at twice the rate. And then I'll do it again. I'll duplicate that one and blur it again at twice the rate. And sometimes I do this all the way up to 512 or 1024. This time I'm only going to do 3 layers of it. So now I've got these 3 different layers. One of them is just blurred to 8. One is blurred to 16, and one is blurred to 32. And what this gives me is a nice umbra and penumbra effect, where I've got the central part where it's all 3 of these have got darkness right under the text. And so there's this central part of the shadow that is very, very dark, which is great for highlighting the edges of my text. But then I've also got a hazier background shadow that helps blur out the details in the background and makes the text easier to read. So now that I've got all 3 of these, I actually merge them together into just one layer, name it so that I can find it later, title shadow. And that now I bring back the title and it's got this lovely shadow behind it. Not perfect yet though, because the shadow works better if it's offset a little bit. So I'll grab my tool here, my little move crap around tool, select the entire screen, and I'm just going to drop it down by 12 and to the left by 7. So now you've got a drop shadow that looks really nice and is offset just a little bit and is sort of maximally doing its job to make it possible for you to read the title of the game, even against the busy background. Okay, and so now the last bit, I've got to figure out what I'm going to say about this game. So you can see this adorable little guy lunging at you through the screen. but I've got to put some words on here to say what I want to say about this game. Now, I did have some recommendations from the audience while I was making the video that I should make the title about drowning babies, because I did sort of, as baby me, jump into a pool and die. While that would be eye-catching, and I've definitely done weird things like that before, that seems a little far to me. I think there's a lot of people who would not want to click on a video if it said drowning babies on it. I certainly, like, for instance, when I did my Edith Finch video, I did not put that on the cover because I wanted people to watch it. And if they knew there were going to be drowning babies inside that game, I don't think they would have. So... But the thing is, so at the very end of this video, I did choose the evil path. But then the whole next video was about me pursuing the evil path. So I think that hinting about me playing as an evil character, I think that's probably for the second video. For the first video, I genuinely put no thought into this prior to this. So let's scrub through that video a little bit and just sort of think about what happened in the video. That might be interesting. Like, okay, so this is the first video I've done of Biomutant. So I think a lot of viewers will have no idea what Biomutant is. It might just simply need to be told, this is the kind of game this is. So, so something that is just, the animal apocalypse or something very general might be worthwhile. Some commentary, like one theme that I pulled out a lot while I was making this video was that there was something about the pacing of the storytelling that was actually kind of off for me. Like the way that the narrator and the characters had to take turns talking really kind of slowed it down. And so I was kind of rushing through it. I wonder if there's something I could say about, like trying to rush through a slow paced game or something like that. I don't know. Jedi Cyctrix says, oh, you know what? That's a great idea, Jedi Cyctrix. Okay. So when I first started looking at this video, let's see here. Like at the very beginning, wasn't I looking at myself sort of when I first discovered the photo mode? That's right. When I first discovered the photo mode, it was when I was running around. Where was that? It was when I was running around and I said something like, "Look, I'm so cute." I think you're right. Jedi Cyctrix, I think you're right. I think that needs to be sort of the theme of this. Yeah, I think one of my favorite things to do with the thumbnail titles is to come up with a title that is descriptive, but that is also something I said or something someone in the audience said over the course of the stream. Because I think there's some weird little fun light bulb that goes off in someone's head when they know what the title of the video is and then they see the thing that inspired it later on in the video. I don't know, there's a weird little brain candy thing that happens there. I can't remember. Where was it? I feel like I saw a little preview of myself running around. Was it here? Now, this is when I was a baby. Oh, well, I'm probably never going to find it again. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that I said the line, "Look, I'm so cute." So that's probably exactly what we want this to say. We want this to say, "Look, I'm so cute." So, okay, so I've got this subtitle layer that I use for that. But now I've got to pick a font. So I usually go, there's lots of like sources for free fonts out there. I think there's one called 20,000fonts.com, another one called dafont.com. Lots of good places to look for free fonts. I've been collecting a bunch of them for a while. So usually I can find a font that is something I'm appropriate to a given game. Like, I don't know. My go-to is the same font that I usually use for that's actually in State of Decay 2, which is called, what was it called? Chunk 5. Chunk 5 is my automatic go-to just because it's really just thick and chunky and easy to read, and it goes with a lot of things. So like, "Look, I'm so cute." That wouldn't be bad. It's the thing is, it doesn't quite. I mean, this might be okay. It doesn't quite go with the Biomutant logo, though. It doesn't look all that great. So let's see here. What other options do I have? I mean, I don't want to go through the process of searching for a brand new font with you guys because that's just that takes a long time. But I have a fair number of other fonts on here that might be okay. Like, I mean, there's the classic Arial black, but no, that's a little simple. I think there's one that I use a fair amount. Like, so there's this one. Look, I'm so cute. It looks like it's painted or something like that, which could be actually maybe that one doesn't want to be in all caps. Though it actually some of it looks like caps regardless. So I could go look, I'm so cute like that. That font, given that this, it looks like a big broad brush, and this game has got sort of like a lot of, say, like Eastern inspiration in it, and there's this kind of font is often used to like, for the titles of games about ninjas and things like that. In fact, I think I used it for my Boomerang X thumbnail. So this is a decent option. I'd probably want to mess with the arrangement of letters though. Right here, this looks kind of crappy. So KG Life is messy. Could work. King of Kings is another one that often looks good with like, I don't know, it's got kind of like a Western sort of vibe to it, which often works in in like post-apocalyptic settings, stuff like that. All right, so let's. Is there anything else that's going to stand out to me as being particularly? Because I don't know if I actually think that. Because I mean, like this, for instance, is in the same, has got a similar vibe to the actual font, because it's got sort of it's that sci-fi look with the notches missing. Similarly, this one, not really buying this though. You don't want to talk about cute things with a font like that. Okay, so let's say we want to do Life is Messy, but I think that particular arrangement of the letters isn't really working that well for me. So let's go with just the word cute. And actually, this is a weird font where the lowercase letters are the same size as the capital letters, but that's fine. So let's do this rather than just doing it like straight with the entire font like the same size. Let's arrange it word by word, emphasizing the words we care about. So, for instance, we've got the word cute here. So, okay, so here's a question. Do I want to draw in front of the tail? Do I want to avoid the tail? Or do I want to actually have the tail go over the text? I could see any of those working. Let's try it over the tail first. See how we feel about that. But we can undo it if we want to. Because this is just grab the word cute. So what I want is for viewers to see the word cute and have that be the word that resonates with them first. Like, because reading along, when you're looking through YouTube thumbnails, you're not even reading every single word. You're glancing over them and you're catching what pops out to you, right? So I want them to catch the word cute and this adorable little face on my character. That's what I want them to see. So the word cute is about as big as I can fit on there without looking weird. And then we're going to grab a smaller size and write the words, look, I'm so. And it looks like we need to even go smaller. Oh, maybe even smaller. Let's go like 60. And then try to arrange these. Okay, actually, I think look by itself. You see how, like, the comma nestles really nicely between the U and the T? I love that stuff. Okay, so the look is going to be that size. But I think we're going to go even smaller because the I'm so, they're like the least important part of this. So look, I'm so cute. So we'll make the I'm so even smaller. In fact, we might even go down to 36. Uh-oh, somebody's knocking on my door. I'll be right there, kids.
Milo wants to get out of the bath.
Okay, yeah, I'll help in just a second. I'm about to wrap this up. Okay, so yeah, so I think that's nice. It's nice and readable still, but I don't know. I'm not really a fan of exactly where this is. Let's just move this just slightly lower so it's like lining up with the shape of the word cute a little better. Okay. So now we've got look, I'm so cute on there. And then what do we do? Okay, so now this also needs a drop shadow, right? So let's duplicate it like before, hide the original, and turn it black. We're going to do the whole thing we did before. We're going to blur it to 8, duplicate it. I've done this so many times. Blur it to 16, duplicate it. So if you were doing this with actual Photoshop, you could make a macro to do this, and that's absolutely what I probably would have tried to learn how to do. But Paint.net doesn't do that. It's totally fine. Because I've basically got a macro in my brain now for this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now right there, it's got the same sort of proportions as the shadow behind the title. And there we go. I think we've got a thumbnail here. I don't really feel the need to try to make the tail go in front. I think having like parts of him go in front of the frame, but the tail is a little behind the other bits, and it's also behind the title. I think it kind of emphasizes the 3D nature of the whole thing. Like his back foot is behind the frame, while his front foot's in front of it. The tail is behind the text. It makes the whole thing feel more 3D, right? So Cog says, should it be look me so cute because me is cuter? I'm actually not a fan of baby talk. I actually don't find it cute. I mostly just find it obnoxious. And so I don't think I'd do that. And also, it's not what I said. I think I said the phrase literally, look, I'm so cute. And so I want to match up with what I actually said. Though that is a good suggestion. It's not my style, so I'm not going to do it, but that was totally worth suggesting. Okay, so now I got to save this. So let's make sure I don't save over my template. So we're going to save this as Biomutant. And then I've got to save it in a couple of different formats. So first I'm going to save a ping of it. And I'm going to give it a number 1 because I'm going to make another one after this. So I'm going to save a ping. That's going to be for my YouTube thumbnail. Twitch doesn't accept images that big. And so now I have to make it a JPEG, which will be more compressed so that I can use it for my Twitch thumbnail. And there we go. So now I am going to need to take a break in just a second to go get my son out of the bath. But one thing I want to point out. So now that I've got my JPEG, I can open up the original PDN file, which has got, so in order to make the ping and the JPEG, it had to compress all the layers down. You'll notice that I accepted some options to do that. But it keeps the original PDN, which I can then use to make my next one. So actually, let me quickly show you what that would look like. I'm not going to do the entire process, but let me open up my original template. So I've got the white frame from the original template. Let me copy that, and then let me get rid of the white frame, get rid of the subtitle, and then I'm going to paste in a new white frame that's undisturbed and make it transparent again. And so what I'm going to do next is, and I won't do this one on the air, but basically I'm going to go grab from my second Biomutant video another image, and basically cut it out of the frame the same way I did before, but this time with a new frame layer. And then I'll put a new subtitle on it, and I'll stick a number somewhere on the screen to show that this is number 2. The original Biomutant video is my first Biomutant video, but this is the Biomutant video number 2. But I'll keep building it on the same template so that the logo right here is in exactly the same place on all of the videos. And so because I'm working the images around the logo now for all the future videos, that means that all of them are going to have about the same thing. Like the foreground image is going to be in the same position in all of these videos. And so they'll have sort of a theme to them. If you're looking down the playlist, you'll see that they all match. So anyway, so that's how I make my thumbnails. So thank you, Jedi Cyctrix, for your interest in this. I actually had a lot of fun sort of walking through the process and explaining it. I'm going to sort of put a pin in this right now. I'm going to go and make the rest of the thumbnails, not only for Friday's videos, which is what Biomutant was, but also for the other videos that I just made today, the videos of Strangeland. So I'm going to go and do that. It's entirely possible because, one thing that I also wanted to do today that I never got to was was continuing my playthrough of Subnautica Below Zero. So if I find some time later today, I might try to sneak that in. If I don't, I think I have recorded enough videos this weekend that I'm good for the week. So either way, thank you for hanging out with me. This was a lot of fun to walk through it with you guys. And yeah, so let's wrap up this video. So if you want to subscribe to my channel, you can do that. And here are some thumbnails of some other videos that maybe you'll want to click on. I don't know. Maybe if they pop out enough and they're cute enough, you'll want to click on them.